Hi everybody, welcome to my Life in Scrubs. I'm Stacy. I'm a registered nurse and I've been in healthcare for about 28 years. And this is just a place where I like to share my experiences as a nurse, maybe as a CNA, an LPN, and give tips and tricks and talk about my journey through nursing. I was thinking today about what it's like for a nurse when you come home from work, right? Do you put real clothes on or do you put your pajamas on? Do you know how to live outside of your scrubs? I was thinking today that I spend more time in my work uniform than I do in normal clothes, and I have found that it's really hard for me to pick normal clothes that I like, that are more comfortable than my pajamas at home. I have thought when I come home, I take off my scrubs. That's the first thing we do as nurses. We come in our home and we get rid of the germs that we've been exposed to all day. Maybe we weren't exposed to germs, but maybe we were, and we get rid of it. Most of us take our shoes off at the door. We don't walk through our house with those germs on our floor, and we take off our scrubs. And even during COVID, I would take my scrubs off in the doorway before I walked through my house and throw them immediately into the wash, or if in an apartment situation, which I lived in during the early stages of COVID, I would put them in a bag until I could get them to the laundry. But generally, nurses take off our scrubs. And I don't know if all nurses do this, but I know that my friends who are nurses, we put on our pajamas or leisure wear, right? We don't put on blue jeans. And I think sometimes it's important as a nurse to step outside of those scrubs and outside of those pajamas and take a walk or something, because I was wondering how nurses spend their leisure time. As a nurse myself, I find that I don't want to be around people when I am not working. I am perfectly content to sit in my house and sit on my couch and do nothing on my days off, or I would love to just sleep all day. I'm not going to do that because I have a lot of responsibilities, but I was just thinking that as nurses, we always say to our friends, oh, we're going to go have lunch, we're going to do that. And I think I've seen nurses that actually have a personal life outside of work, and they get together with their friends. And maybe they're the younger nurses, because I sure, as an older nurse, haven't figured out how to allow that lunch with my friend into my quiet time. But I think that's important as a nurse, that we step outside of our scrubs, that we live outside of our pajamas. We deal with people all the time in nursing, and we are face to face with people, and we have to present a professional person all the time. And I know that most nurses don't feel professional all the time inside. We have emotions. We're not robots. We're people. And it gets exhausting sometimes not saying the things that you might want to say, right? You get people yelling at you. You get people being rude to you. You get people that are just generally unhappy with healthcare. And as a consumer myself, when I'm not a nurse, I get it. I understand it. But I think because I'm a nurse, I try not to make waves when I'm in a situation that's not exactly the way I would want it to go. For example, when you go to the emergency room and you're waiting for a long time. Well, I know that those nurses are dealing with things behind the scenes, and if I was bleeding or I couldn't breathe or something, they would probably be in there dealing with me, right? But what I'm saying is, when you deal with people all the time, you kind of don't want to deal with people on the days when you're just seeing your family. But I always enjoy actually getting out and doing something once I'm out doing it. I like going to see my family when I get a chance, or doing something with my husband, having a date night or something. I enjoy those sorts of things. I enjoy being out, people watching, getting out, going swimming, going to the beach, going for a walk in the park. I really love getting out and doing those things. It's the motion of getting up to do it that I find challenging. And it's because sometimes I don't, when you're a nurse, you have to be professional at all times when you're out in the public, because you are representing your profession even on your days off. You are not just a person, you're always a nurse. You're always a nurse. When you're out in public, you're still representing your profession, your company, because if you do things that are not appropriate in the real world, it can affect the way people view you as a nurse in the professional world when you're seeing patients, because you never know who you're going to encounter in the public, right? You might see people that have been your patients in the past. You might see people that may be your patients in the future, and the way that you present yourself when you're out and you're not in your uniform is just as important as the way that you present yourself when you're in your uniform and at work. And sometimes I find that to be challenging, to always be presenting that person, because I'll tell you what, when I'm driving in traffic, for example, and people cut me off, I guarantee you're not going to see the professional side of this nurse if I'm driving in traffic and you cut me off. And I think about that sometimes when I'm having a moment in the car. I think, oh my goodness, what if one of my patients or their families was the person who cut me off, and here I am cussing them out. And so then I calm down a little bit, right? It makes me calm down a little bit, because I hate getting out around people sometimes, especially in traffic. As nurses, we care about people. We love helping people, and we got into this profession because we cared. But sometimes I think it depletes you and you need a break. But I am saying that I think it's important for nurses to get out of their pajamas, get out of their scrubs, and get out in the world and live in it and enjoy your life. Don't spend all your time sleeping in your scrubs, even though you're exhausted, even though you don't want to people. You should people, because I don't know if this is true for anybody else, but when you spend all your time in your scrubs and your pajamas, sometimes you find out you can't get back into your jeans. You gain a little weight, or you don't really have an idea how to put it together. That is my problem. I do not know how to put an outfit together. I am used to picking scrubs and coming home and putting pajamas on and throwing my hair in a bun or a ponytail. And for me, trying to find an outfit that I would wear out into public that's suitable is challenging, and especially since it's just not that important to me on a day-to-day basis. But I find that I want to do things and I have no clue what I should be wearing. And I just wondered if any other nurses have that problem, where you just find yourself in a rut of coming home from work, throwing on your pajamas and sitting on your couch and scrolling on your phone. Because I think that's what I have spent a lot of time doing. And I've realized that I don't get a workout in when I probably could during all those empty moments. I probably could have gone for a walk and relieved some tension. I mean, taking a walk helps you clear your mind and relieve tension. Exercise brings on those endorphins. I think sometimes we don't care for ourselves enough as nurses, and that's why we come home and we just vegetate. That's just my opinion. That's not a fact. That's my opinion about why I do these things, why I don't like to get out, because I think when you're peopled out and you've dealt with all the trauma and emotions that come with illness and people being in a position where they're not themselves, where they feel down or they feel bad. I think you take on all those emotions, you take on all those feelings, and you have to figure out how to digest them. But I think as nurses that we have to learn healthier ways to come home and cope with the day that we've had. And so I am suggesting that you take 2 or 3 days a week where you don't put your pajamas on. You come home and put on some real clothes and go do something with your friends that you've been saying you're going to do something with for 6 months or a year, and actually make time to do it, because you'll feel better, and those people are your people and they understand what you're doing. And work-life balance. That's the theme for me this week. Work-life balance. So how do you guys cope when you come home? Do you take off your scrubs and get in your pajamas, or do you get out and go to the gym? Do you see your friends? Do you hang out with your family? What gives you self-care? Do you go get a massage sometimes? I'd love to hear about it in the comments, and I would love some questions from you if you have any questions about being a hospice nurse, which is what my current role is. And if you like my content, I would ask you to consider liking, subscribing, and following for more. Thank you. Bye-bye.